Hi guys, this is Andre Desjardins from Cape Breton Life TV. I'm at the Canso in Port Hood. It's a small group of people. There's no blockade or anything. People are slowing down traffic, giving away pamphlets for information for the solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en people and Anistoten. So I'm going to try to speak to people, but I'm just going to show you guys what's going on. So as you can see, the traffic is not being stopped, it's just being slowed down, and people are handing out pamphlets of information. There's a small crowd gathered on the island in between the two highways. So we have media here also. Here's my son Andle, he's with me. So you're holding, you're giving out pamphlets to the drivers?
Yes.
What's on the pamphlets?
I support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
Okay. Is there any information in there on what's going on?
There is. About actually what the facts are. What's happened is that really Canadians are very unaware and regrettably, and ignorance is not a bad word. You just don't know about First Nations people. You don't know about the issues. And this is very simple stuff that should be taught in elementary schools. I mean, elementary kids should be learning this stuff, not adults trying to make a point, demonstrating. The other thing that's very bothersome, is very troubling, is when people like Peter MacKay and Jason Kenney advocate violence and hate against one particular group. Watch your step, fella. When you do that, thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
We can do both.
When Peter MacKay tweets and advocates violence and hate against one particular group, our group, you've turned a very dark, dangerous corner. Peter MacKay and Jason Kenney have essentially bared their souls. They have shown exactly just what hate. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Hi, Brian! Hi, Brian!
Peter MacKay and Jason Kenney have essentially disqualified themselves from ever serving in public office again. To think that a former justice minister, and I want Canadians to think about this. Thank you, sir. And potential leader of the PC party.
Nice to see you.
Not to mention a potential Prime Minister of Canada advocating hate and violence against Canada's original people.
Did you see the broadcast yesterday that the Prime Minister gave?
Yes, I did. 1 second, please. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
What are your thoughts on his comments?
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. The Prime Minister essentially knew what he was doing when he says he doesn't know or has any power over the RCMP in BC. To say that the RCMP are the responsibility of the province is to say that to the Canadian people, and we all know that's not true. We know that whenever First Nations gather to protest. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you. We know that whenever First Nations gather to protest, the police state comes out, the RCMP comes out, the tactical units, the Canadian Armed Forces is on standby. You cannot tell me that JTF2 isn't present, and you can't tell me that NORAD is not taking pictures. This is what happens when First Nations people peacefully protest. And when you have women and children on the front lines being attacked by RCMP officers, that's a different ballgame altogether. What you're doing is you're advocating hate and violence against one group. I don't think Canada, that's what Canada is about. Peter MacKay, Jason Kenney, the rest of the parliamentarians, my God, the spectacle they put on in the House of Commons, especially Chris Dentermont, need to apologize. If they cannot apologize, then they need to resign immediately. Once you start advocating hate, you've given up your right to serve the public. And whatever legacy Elmer MacKay ever built, Peter MacKay just destroyed that and blew that right out of the water. He bared his soul. He showed his hate. That's a very dark corner to turn down.
Do you think the escalation will increase if the talks in the Commons, the way they're going, are going to continue like that?
No. First Nations, when we protest peacefully. We don't come to confront. What happens a lot of times is that because of the ignorance and because of the hate, the police forces are on automatic default to come in and start swinging truncheons. I mean, to have snipers trained on people in Canada who are protesting peacefully is you've turned a dark corner. These officers need to be found and they need to be drummed out of the RCMP. No doubt about it.
And like with all the blockades that have been going on, we're on 3 weeks now. What do you think is needed to stand down in the Tyendinaga territory?
Well, this is all very simple. This is not a complicated issue. Get the RCMP out of there. Enough of the police state.
Out of
Bring the
Wet'suwet'en?
negotiators to the table. This is a job for the Prime Minister, not for the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs. This is a job for the Prime Minister.
So he should be sitting with the Wet'suwet'en?
He should be at the table with the Wet'suwet'en. To delegate it is not only irresponsible, he knows it is potentially dangerous. He knows what he's doing.
On the interview,
That's not
on the interview yesterday, he seemed to put the onus on the chiefs to stand down.
Here's the thing. Always the onus is placed upon our people to stand down. All they're doing is saying, thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. All they're saying is get the RCMP out. That's not a complicated request. That is not complicated. And for people to learn the issues in regards to what the issues are. I mean, Canadians, thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. Canadians, and especially the politicians, thank you very much, sir. Have a nice day. Like to go on about the rule of law. This is what's funny. Thank you very much, miss. Have a nice day. Thank you. You betcha. Have a nice day. Thank you.
So we're in the shoulder in Port Hood, separating both highways, and we're speaking a bit with.
This is what's funny.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Duncan Gould. I'm from Membertou.
You're from Membertou?
Membertou, Cape Breton, situated in Sydney. Here's the funny thing. Politicians, people would just really not know and like to go on about the rule of law. Here's the thing. Ever since contact, every rule of law has been broken in regards to First Nations. Every one. Every rule, every promise. So when we come and say, what's the problem? Automatically, everybody's saying, no, they're rioting. Or
What do you say to
Canadians fearmonger.
to the 1,500 layoffs and the propane shortages in Quebec?
The layoffs with CN Rail were in the works for months, apparently. They were in the works for months.
So it wasn't
Not only
because of
that,
this.
They have made billions in profits. Those layoffs were in the works. And for them to turn around and say, we're going to blame the First Nations, is not only irresponsible, you're spreading hate. Something should be done about that. They should be sanctioned for that. Their senior management should all be fired just for coming out with that lie, because everybody knows it's not true. To blame stuff on that, and here's the other thing. Maybe if Canadians could, through a different lens, picture this as a labor strike, which is very legitimate, right? I mean, labor strikes happen all the time. Labor strikes shut down everything, but nobody says anything. I'll give you another example. If the fishermen and PEI rioted like they did, burned down fish plants, right? The RCMP will say, well, we'll just wait and let things calm down. But when you have a grandmother holding up a needle feather, they come in busting heads. So there's something very, very wrong with this police force. And it's something very, very wrong when the politicians like Chris D'Entremont, Peter MacKay, Jason Kenney, all of them advocate hate and violence against Canada's original peoples. Just imagine if you did this with a Jewish person. You have laws on the books that say anti-Semitism. My God, God forbid if you said anything against a Jewish person. But yet, you can go out like Peter MacKay and say, run over First Nations, right? Do everybody a favor. Something terribly wrong. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
So what do you think has to be done for both sides to sit down?
Well, here's a very simple. Education and awareness is not a bad thing. Ignorance is not a bad thing. You're talking about such elementary school stuff that learned men like Peter MacKay, Jason Kenney, the Prime Minister, do not even know. This is stuff that should have been taught in the history books going back decades. And they've been told that repeatedly. But yet, there's an agenda that still advocates hate and violence towards First Nations. It's very systemic. Look how brainwashed you are. Look how brainwashed society is, right? When you dehumanize and objectify a group of people, and First Nations people are the only group that are portrayed this way. Just think of Washington Redskins, Cleveland Indians, all right? Edmonton Eskimos, Chicago Blackhawks, Riverview Redmen. They're still crying about that. I mean, Cape Breton Post even published an editorial whining about removing the Riverview Redmen name. I mean, that is as racist as they come. How ridiculous. So for adults not to know this common sense, it's pretty sad.
So do you see any of those blockades coming down in Tiandenega anytime soon, or?
Well,
they
said they would take them down once the RCMP leave Wet'suwet'en territory, and that's all it is. Get the police out, and we'll talk. Bring the real negotiators in, like the Prime Minister. Bring them in, right?
Yeah. So we're in Port Hood, just past the Canso Causeway. This is Cape Breton Live TV, and we're in the middle of the highway on the island. And Mr. Gould here from Member 2 is handing out pamphlets with information about Wet'suwet'en and Unistoten. And you know, this has been going on for 3 weeks. Via Rail's been shut down, CN's been shut down, propane shortages in Quebec. People are getting very angry with this, and you know, First Nations are standing their ground, and like Mr. Gould said from member 2, the Wet'suwet'en are waiting for the RCMP to clear their territory so the Prime Minister can sit down and have negotiations with the. I don't think they're against the gas pipeline. I think they want it rerouted through another part of their territory. You know, there's a lot more to this than people think. So the first thing I'm noticing is there's a different mix of population here. It's not just First Nation that are standing up for the Wet'suwet'en, it's also non-natives. There's a pretty good police presence before the Canso Causeway, and there's police presence in between, and there's police presence after. So they're doing a good job of keeping this protest safe. People don't seem to be annoyed by it coming through. Some of them are very agreeable. So only traffic is being slowed down. It's not really a blockade or any of that kind of thing. It's more of a ceremony and prayer. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Not bad.
Andre? Don't film me. I wanted to give you a hug. I haven't seen you in forever.
How's it going, Barbara?
There we go. Good.
There's no selfie going on there. Good weather today?
Look at this tall person.
That's Andre. That's not the one you met.
No, I've seen you.
Andre Gigi's over there.
We were packed in a car.
Remember him? The one we had to change in the parking lot because he pooped his diaper and...
Okay, he probably doesn't want to hear that story
No,
now.
but now it's on live TV, so he's out. Pick two powwow, my son, he completely exploded his diaper, and we were washing him down with a bucket of water in the parking lot. Many buckets of water, and we had people helping me, and
we had like a bucket line.
a bucket line. Yeah, and it was yeah, there goes the new car smell in the van.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was funny. All right, yeah, don't get hit, Andre. All right, okay. Crazy.
guys.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Want to take a picture, bro?
Take a picture of me taking a picture of you.
Sure, why not? Wait, I gotta turn it on.
This is Sasha Doucette, Von Doucette's daughter, my son's godfather. See, I've been living in Eskasoni for 18 years, so I have a relationship with a lot of these people. So they're familiar with me, they know my face, they're comfortable around me, and I'm comfortable around them. A friend of mine in Quebec got laid off from CN. Daniel Lewis, he just lost his job a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if this is related to it, but I think the feeling is people feel for what's going on, but it's been going on for so long that people have to speak out. People have to let other people know what's going on. From coast to coast.
And they are not going to stand down from this situation.
So basically, for the barricades to stop in Tiendenega, the RCMP must leave Wet'suwet'en territory and start negotiations with the Prime Minister. And that's what the request is, to stop this. So we're in it for 3 weeks now. There's shortages in Quebec for propane. There's shortages in Nova Scotia. Layoffs with Via Rail. Via Rail service is discontinued. They just laid off 1,000 people until this ends.
You know why they laid off Via Rails? They were being laid off already back in November of 2019.
They were talking about it before?
Yeah, they were talking about it before.
So
these CN rails, those layoffs were mentioned already last year. So they're trying to pin this on Indigenous, what's going on all across Turtle Island. Those are wrong. Those layoffs were already happening. Just to let you know.
So we're very open here. We're transparent. We're talking.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Love Mother Earth.
There was a press conference yesterday in Tiendenega with the hereditary chiefs from Wet'suwet'en, and that's what they requested, that the RCMP leave Wet'suwet'en territory and sit down with the Prime Minister to reroute the gas project. I don't think they're against it, they just want it to go somewhere else in another part of their territory. And that's what they want to talk about. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's what's going on. And the Tiendenega said they won't bring down the barricades until RCMP leave the Wet'suwet'en territory. So this could go on for a few more days. And speaking with Mr. Gould from Member 2, when he brought the subject that some members in Parliament are inciting hate with some of their comments, and it's not what's needed right now. Oh, sorry.
Just so I wouldn't be hungry. You're so thoughtful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. And, but
So far it's pretty peaceful. No incidents. The traffic is slowing down, but it's nothing that really would inconvenience my day. I'm happy that people are getting along. I think the First Nation want peace. They don't want incite violence. They don't want another Oka. I don't think that's what they want. That's just my opinion. I'm kind of biased because I live on a reserve and I've been there for 18 years. So I understand what's going on. I understand both sides. I'm from Ottawa. I grew up in Ottawa, and you know, we weren't exposed to too much of this until Oka happened in 1990. So being down in Cape Breton, I'm exposed to it a lot.
Is it where like all the simulators
Lots to learn.
I put out mine in the truck.
Well, they multiply. Yeah.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
I almost didn't recognize you all bundled up.
I'm trying to keep warm.
How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm really happy at the crowd here.
Yeah.
Isn't this awesome?
Yeah, it's nice and peaceful. And
people are happy.
Yeah.
And happy to be here. And happy to be part of this. And happy that we're doing this.
I'm happy I came.
Can you believe it? People are really grateful that we're doing this for the community, you know that? I'm doing this for the nation. Are you living or are you...
Yeah, I'm just living and trying to get both sides of the story.
I don't know what the other side would be. Peter McKay's side where he wants to run us down.
No, I mean all the disruptions and the Tiendenega barricades and how it's going to stop and
It's a really simple solution to stop. Just take the advice of the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs who offered an alternative route to their pipeline. It's a very simple solution.
So they're not opposing the project. They just want an alternate route, huh?
They want an alternate route out of their hereditary territory that's going to disrupt a number of their harvesting lifestyle, way of life.
Okay.
You know how important that is.
Yeah,
you
the
harvest.
water and it's near the water, huh?
Yeah, and they depend on the salmon, the wildlife. That's their way of life, and they have sovereignty. And they offered the pipeline people an alternative route, and they refused to take it, only because it's going to inconvenience his contractors.
Oh, I was watching your live, I think yesterday, and you were talking about your relationship with the Mohawks.
Yes,
and the reason why you're here. Can you?
They used to be our enemies.
They used to be your enemies.
They used to be our enemies, and for a long time, because we all both of us wanted to be in Mi'kmaq. The Mi'kmaq wanted to be in Mi'kmaq, and the Gwidish were always trying to encroach into our territory because it's so beautiful here, right?
Yeah.
From the Gaspé right to, you know how beautiful it is. So we were enemies for a long time, but it was hand-to-hand combat. It was the type of combat where the enemy would sneak into the camp of their enemy and slap the top warrior across the face while he's sleeping. And if you were able to do that, you were humiliated. I mean, if you were able to do something, the victim, that was the worst humiliation that you could suffer, to have an enemy come into your wigwam where your wives were and slap you across the face while you're sleeping.
So how did the relationship renew?
Well, with the Indian wars that were happening, the people, our people, and their people decided they were just tired of the fighting. They were tired of the warring. They were tired of the torture. It must be hard. Like, the grandmothers were in charge of the justice, and sometimes they had to put their enemies to death. What a burden that must have been for them, that they had to live with that. And they must have been tired, because we were targets. We were targets of violence. So the Gwidish, the Mohawk,
we already had wampum Ulnup school with our Wabanaki relations. So after they decided they're going to stop the war, we even have legends at Minigo about the Gwidish coming to the island, and the last Gwidish enemy is buried at that island. The last one, the last
In
enemy to
Chapel Island?
Yeah, right on the
Budladek.
Minigo. Yeah.
Budladek.
He's buried. They're buried there. They didn't survive after because you had to announce yourself from a distance before you came. And in our people, we had a song. So if you didn't announce yourself, then you were an enemy.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But after the war, Indian and French wars were going on, our people decided to strike peace with the Iroquois.
Okay.
And we entered into Ulnup school with them. And we have stories of this and legends of this. And even after the 1700 treaties were signed, our people and the Iroquois and the Mohawk and the Wabanaki, they were still coming together for councils.
So there's a big relationship. It's like a brotherhood,
Historic.
sisterhood, and brotherhood.
Yes, exactly.
So what happens to them happens to you,
Exactly.
and vice versa.
Exactly.
So that's why they're standing in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en and Tiendenega, is because what happened to them happened to them. Basically.
Yes, our sovereignty is their sovereignty. Their sovereignty is our sovereignty. So if they are asserting their sovereignty, we have a duty, a sacred duty to honor our sovereignty by backing them up.
Yeah.
It's just like your sister or your brother. If they're in trouble, what are you going to do?
Yeah. So we're family.
We're family. We're all closely family related through historically, for a long time. And it can't be destroyed, no matter how many times Peter MacKay wants to send out the trucks to run us down.
I can see that it's not just First Nations here today. So do you consider the non-natives here family as well? For showing up?
Not only are they family, but we supported them. Like, don't forget, we supported them at Lake Ainsley when they were being threatened with fracking.
I was there, yeah.
And we supported them in Dominion and in Duncan when the seismic testing was going to destroy the fishery a few years ago. And we went and we supported them because their due process through the political process was it was dead ends. So they asked us to assert our title, and we did.
Yeah.
On behalf of the water. And we stopped the seismic testing by Duncan Mines at that time. So we come out whenever they ask us for help. They have called, we've made the call and come out to help. And it's great to see it being reciprocated where they're here too.
Because I seen that you were very upset with all the negative comments that were being, inciting violence and racism and stuff like that.
Yes.
Do you think there's a possibility for change still between relations?
Well, there's ignorance. That's why the violence happens. It's because there's an ignorance there, and they don't understand the basis of why we do things. They see us because of the propaganda that's being put out there against us. The Crown, through the decades and centuries, has incited a lot of hatred against us. And they continue to do that through the education systems, which does not teach the correct history. Right? So, until we start being honest about the true history of this, like, who saved who? Come on.
Yeah.
We weren't saved.
Yeah.
But we certainly saved a lot. We saved many.
Did you see the Prime Minister's press release?
No, what did he say?
Yesterday he was talking about the, coming to the table if a relationship between the chiefs and the barricades were put aside, and then so he basically put the onus on First Nation people to end this peacefully and reconcile.
Well, I told the RCMP we're going to continue to uphold and we're going to continue to support our relations because we don't like operating under the threat of a sniper.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to us right now. That's what they're doing to our Inuit relations out BC. They're under the threat of violence, under the threat of a sniper fire.
In Unistoten or Wet'suwet'en?
Wet'suwet'en.
Wet'suwet'en.
And I told the RCMP tried telling me, well, that was just one fella that he was just a bit, you know. And I says, don't try to tell me that. I know how the RCMP operate and how their chain of command operates.
Yeah.
So don't try to tell me that it's just one guy off on his own little powwow.
Yeah.
I said, I remember how you guys behaved towards us at Rexton.
In Rexton.
Don't forget, I remember well how the J Unit treated our people.
Yeah.
They were RCMP J Unit over there. I says they were shady and they promoted violence against our people.
Do you think reconciliation is being done in good faith?
Not at all. So it was just a propaganda phrase
Just
by the politicians to kind of, they use it like toilet paper. You know, every time they're a little uncomfortable about what they let out, they bring out this word reconciliation, but there's no substance to it, no meaning to it. It's just a word that has no meaning. Where in our culture, it has immense, has immense meaning. It's a spiritual awareness that doesn't exist in Trudeau's reconciliation.
It's one-sided, you think?
It's empty.
Empty.
It's empty and void. It doesn't have any substance to it. It's just empty words without any meaning, without any action. It's just empty words.
So the communities have been waiting a long time for action, huh?
I mean, look at what his response is to the Human Rights Tribunal regarding children.
Yeah.
Twice they were defeated, and twice he's brought it to appeal.
Is it still an appeal?
Well, he was defeated again.
It was defeated again.
And he continues to not honor the funding, claiming now that it's going to cause immense economic harm to Canada if they honor the rule of law regarding the Human Rights Tribunal. But yet, they can give, no offense to the Iranian, when the Iranian plane went down, each individual that was on that plane, each family member, they got $25,000 within a week.
I don't quite understand that, but...
So how did he afford that? But he can't afford to honor the Indigenous people and the Indigenous children.
Yeah.
So it's not credible.
The situation on reserves is pretty bleak too.
73% poverty rate at my reserve, Escasoni, at our reserve.
Yeah.
73%. The largest Mi'kmaq reserve in the world, the largest Indian reserve east of Montreal, and we have a poverty rate of 73%. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And why do we have that? Because it's of oppression. Because we're not allowed to assert our treaty. We're not allowed to assert our title. And every time we get ahead a little bit in our in winning our rights, they're squashed. Like it's 21 years this year since the Marshall ruling and our right to a modern living.
Yeah.
But where's the modern living?
They tried exercising their rights this summer, and we all know how that ended. Do you see that as a big setback for Indigenous commercial fisheries going forward?
Well, we need stronger leadership in those positions of Indian chiefs, INAC, Indian Affairs chiefs. We need chiefs like that will go and say to the federal government, I'm going to assert my sovereignty, I'm going to assert my treaty, and I'm going to do my own management plan in a commercial fishery, and I expect the RCMP to figure out a plan with DFO to defend my fishers. But none of them will do that.
Has he ever?
They're all too. They're like deer caught in the headlights.
Everybody's afraid. You find?
They're listening to the wrong people regarding our Ulnapskog and regarding our wampum and our treaty. They're listening to Aglacio lawyers instead of listening to the treaty scholars.
When you say Aglacio, that means Englishmen?
Yeah,
Non-Aboriginals.
Yeah, non-indigenous.
Not indigenous.
They're listening to non-indigenous lawyers, and they're mesmerized by the non-indigenous lawyers who are misleading them and who are being paid to consult, right?
Yeah.
So if they give the advice the chiefs need to assert, they won't be needed to consult. They won't need to be paid to consult.
So with this consultation, is that a money machine too, or?
Well, for the consultants like KMKNO,
So there's a lot of
they got
profit.
17 million so far to do consultations since 2011.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money that they've got.
That's practically half our budget in a year, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and they haven't, one of the things that they've been mandated to do, which is citizenship, they haven't been able to do it because they don't have the authority. And every time they go into the communities, they get rejected.
Okay.
So
There's a lot to this. We're not just standing here because of what's the wetting. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
When Peter McKay made that Twitter remark about running down the
barricades,
with
yeah.
the barricades with his truck, he incited. We're used to racism, right? We're used to hate. We hear it, we see it on a regular basis. We grew up experiencing it. Sometimes we got beat up because of it. I know I did, going to school in Sydney. But when you have a leader like Peter McKay make such a hate-filled statement as that incited his own community against him.
The Conservative Party were excluded from the meetings concerning this because of those comments, I think.
I'm not at all surprised. He probably won't be allowed to run for the Conservative Party after this, after that stunt, because how could he say that about the Mi'kmaq people that he lives in as neighbors with? Like, how could he say something that's so full of contempt? Imagine if we said that about his kids.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go run down Peter McKay's kids. I got a nice big truck.
Yeah.
Let's go plow them down.
So there's a lot of hate, huh?
Yeah, we would never say some stuff like that. Never say things like that about our settler community neighbors. If anything, we'll defend them, not hurt them.
When people expect protest, they expect violence and fires and barricades, and this it's not what's happening.
No.
When
they made fires and at Rexton, that was the police doing it. The police supporters and the what do you call it? The ones that they start trouble. I suffered a concussion, so I forget
agitators.
Words. Agitators.
So that had no relation with you guys.
No, but we get the blame.
You got blamed for it.
Yeah, but that was just propaganda, right?
Yeah.
That's propaganda to make us look bad.
Do you think there's a lot of propaganda regarding what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Like on social media and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, because it's a known fact. It's a known fact that the oil pipeline and the big giant corporations fund the right extremist groups and hate groups. It's well known they do that, and it's to divide the community, it's to incite hate, and it's to further oppress us. That's all it is. That's what it's doing.
So, at the end of the day, in Cape Breton, we want peace, right?
Yeah, because we live in paradise.
We live together on a beautiful island.
Yeah, we live in paradise, and right now, what's really in crisis is the marine life.
Yeah.
They need us to step up for them.
Yeah.
So how can we step up if we're fighting?
Yeah. I've went to a couple of whales that been beached this summer. It was very sad for me to actually see my first whale and it was dead. And you expect to see them alive when you see something like that. And it was very concerning that nobody actually went and looked to see what happened and why that whale was there. And that was really what upset me. But since we live around the ocean and we see this stuff happening, it does affect us.
It does tremendously, and they need because right now the ocean is such crisis state down south in the Pacific that you have a lot of species that didn't traditionally come this far north.
Yeah, we had a few fish this year, right? That migrated from the south and got lost.
Numerous great white sharks.
Yeah, and the big
How many
sunfish from Mexico.
Yeah.
There was 2 in Escasoni at the beach that Joe found. I remember that. And those fish have no
History.
no history here.
No.
So the tides are changing, the weather's changing, it's getting warmer. It doesn't
the
look
lack
like
of
it today,
food.
but you know, yeah, that's affecting everything, the marine life, the animals. It's affecting us in the end.
Yeah, that's right. So that's why it's important that we stand up together
Yeah,
for them.
together is the key part of this.
The unity. unite.
Unity.
Yeah, because when things go really south, we're going to have to take out that causeway to preserve ourselves. That's what or
think?
at least our kids got to know how to do that,
Yeah.
right?
I brought my boys here today. This is their first protest, actually. I don't know if I could call it a protest. What would you? It's more of a Mawiomi.
Yeah, it's more just to offer prayers. You know, when I was doing the prayers at the beginning, I swear to God, I felt like a jolt.
Yeah.
Like a jolt of like electricity, power.
The energy of the island. The
and
energy.
the Creator. I felt when I asked for the Creator to come in, the prayer was answered. I'm sure of it.
Sorry, you guys, but I don't know. Did you get a chance that Brenda here is looking to do an interview with
That
you?
was Elizabeth Marshall from Escasoni.
Brenda, this is Brenda here.
She's one of the grandmothers that organized this event. So what I'm getting out of this Mawiomi is that people need to work together to get this resolved. It seems like there's a lack of education and history between First Nations and the average Canadian. I don't know what to say really. My heart goes out to the ones that are losing work, to the shortages, to the disruptions, but also there's these issues that keep being outstanding, and you know, there needs to be action from leadership to resolve these issues. And now the people are taking it in their own hands.
Are you belling for this?
So this Mawiomi is supposed to last about 2 hours. That's my son, Andre Gij. He came with me today. My other son, Andle, both residents and band members of Escasoni. And I'm not the only one who brought their kids. There's a few kids playing over there, and it's just average people, normal people, families and relatives, relations. I don't feel any hate or violence. I don't think that's what it's about. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
My name is Brian Marshall.
Where are you from?
I'm from Unamagi.
You're Namagi.
Yes, sir.
Anywhere specific? All over the place.
All over the island.
So what brings you here today?
I just come here today to show support for all the grandmothers out here trying to stand in solidarity for... I'm not very good at talking, sir.
That's okay. That's all right. The women are usually up front.
Yes, and I come to stand alongside with them.
They're standing with the women. Yes. Never see it.
So the men are here standing with the women
In solidarity.
in solidarity. That's all right.
You're also not the brightest either. There's a eastern relay. But the federal government
I think we can all agree that we live on a beautiful island, that we love Cape Breton, Unama'ki. I think we can agree on that. It's hard to say what one would do if something would happen to our island. Something happened to our water, our forests, our animals, our fisheries. Deborah Poirier, if we don't start standing together, agenda will definitely take effect. Let's see how we will take that. We will all like that. It is a matter of standing together, I find. We have to stand together. Daryl Bickertson, the majority of Wet'suwet'en approved the coastal gas project. That's true also. There's 20 bands, 20 Indian Act bands that have voted for it with the communities. But there's 5 hereditary chiefs from 5 longhouses that do not approve with the path. So they don't really disapprove with the project. I think it's the path of the pipeline that they're disagreeing with right now, and the RCMP being on their territory. Gary Hodder. Oh, I missed it.
Watch the traffic, bro. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. We do have supporters. Thank you very much.
So my phone is dying. I'm down to 15%. So I guess I'll be signing off. And so I'll be signing off. My phone is dying. It's cold out here. My goal for coming here is getting the information out, why this is happening and what's going on. We're trying to figure it out like everybody else. And from Port Hood, I'll be signing off. Andre Desjardins, Cape Breton Live. Thank you for watching.